Archangel Chronicles 2, Chapter 11, Valeo, by Raymond Kaladi, copyright 2025, all rights reserved. Adam. Theron was angry. His face was flushed, sweat beading upon his furrowed brow. He was like an angry bear, pacing back and forth. He stopped to face me, gesturing with his hands. "This is madness, Adam. How could you come up with such a foolish plan? We will have to stop calling you Adam the Wise, better Adam the Fool, Adam the Mad." Our company had gathered in the shaded courtyard overlooking the harbor. It was early evening, and the sun was sinking low over Aelius, painting the waters molten gold. The air stirred with familiar sounds, ropes creaking, the groaning of ships scraping against wharves, sails flapping, the piercing cries of gull. The air was alive with the scent of salt and spice. I was standing apart from the rest of our company, leaning on the cool stone of the parapet. My eyes were turned east, looking for the appearance of the star that bound my destiny, and which still lay hidden below the horizon. Behind me, the voices of the company rose and fell in urgent debate, echoing many of Theron's statements. Theron leaned back on the stone railing. He smiled, gold teeth flashing through his bearded face. He came over to me, turning to the rest of our company, and raising his hands in his histrionic manner, said, "My friends, we've ridden through vast distances and bled upon the steppes long enough. Look at these ships, full holds, strong crews, favorable winds. From here, the sea will carry us to Berenike, and then the Nile will take us to Alexandria, and there," he spread his arms wide, "awaits a fortune that would shame King Midas. We will all be rich." He turned to me, placing both of his hands on my shoulders and looking at me, wild-eyed and imposing. "But you, my friend, would throw all of this away. And for what? To follow a dream? A vision?" I placed my hands on his face, tugging at his beard. "Theron, you are my comrade, my fellow adventurer. It is you who rescued us from many perils. You have endured danger and suffered with us. But do you not see?" "I, Adam, I do not see. I do not understand what it is that you and these other mystics, your star bearers, see and hear. I do not understand what it is you seek." He broke away from me and reached in his purse. He flung a handful of gold and silver coins onto the floor dramatically and turned again to address the rest of the company as if an actor reciting his lines. "See, this is what I understand. Gold and silver." He turned to me, eyes flashing. "I can hold it in my hand. I can make a better life with this. I can command respect. I can live in comfort in the walls of my family, safe and secure for the rest of my days. This is what I understand. Theron, there is a call beyond gold and safety. 8 of us, and our Salian too, have sworn an oath. The League of Star-Bearers will follow the path to light, not gold. Theron strolled to the stone balustrade overlooking the harbor. He swept his hand, gesturing to the cargo stacked below, amphorae full of precious oils, bales of silk, baskets of pearls, jars of cinnamon, myrrh, and frankincense. He turned back, his eyes gleaming. Look at those ships, my friends. 1 month to Berenica, a short caravan across the desert, and then the Nile carries us back home to Alexandria. There, in the Emporium, our fortunes will shine brighter than the light of Pharos itself. Axia spoke, coming forward and placing a hand on Theron's shoulder. And you, my friend, she said gently, do you not remember how you were touched by the power of this light at the Kurgan, and how the torchbearer came and raised me from my father's grave? Were you not present when we were led to rescue Loukia, this girl of love and wonder, from her fate? Do you not remember Adam going forth amid the raging winds and snows of the mountains to lead us safely through the pass to Taxila? Were you not there when the great King Gondophares was called to search for the Child of Light? You may not see the light, dear Theron, but how can you doubt these events? My queen, said Theron, I see these ships here and now, full of the wealth of the Far East. I see a future of trade and prosperity for all of us and our families. That is what I see. But you and your oath-takers would abandon all this and throw this providence to the wolves. What sense is there in this? Honourius, gray-haired and gaunt, was seated in his litter and attended to by servants. He now spoke wearily, looking at me. Adam, you are a man of sense. Tell me you see reason in this. Arabia holds no promise but thirst and graves. Theron speaks true. The holds of our ships, prime with silks, spices, gems, and frankincense, myrrh, and ivory, in Alexandria, they will pay in gold. With that wealth, we could secure our homes, our names, our legacy. I have been given a great commission by the Emperor. Great favor will follow with this reopening of trade routes. So tell me, why must we abandon reason to chase this wandering star we cannot see into the desert? Sophia glided forward and knelt before Honourius. Father, this star does not move by chance. It has chosen its watchers. Those who follow it will see what kings and philosophers have taught since time began. Wealth will crumble. Scrolls will turn to dust. But the light is eternal. What is gold against such promise? What are fortunes against the music of angels? Her voice was calm. It cut through the murmuring of the company like a bell. The others felt silent. She turned her blue eyes eastward, where the first hints of twilight shimmered. That light has no price. I have walked the marble halls of the museum and read the wisdom of 1,000 scrolls. None of it spoke to me like the star, which speaks to the soul. Theron sighed. Philosophy and light do not feed men, my lady, Nor does it pay sailors, nor will angels bargain with the guild masters of Alexandria. I have a family in Alexandria, and debts to settle. The gods have granted us a great fortune, and we would spit in their faces for what? To chase a phantom? He jabbed his thumb towards the eastern sky. This is a dream, and dreams do not pay in drachmas or denarii. Honourius looked earnestly to me, his eyes pleading. Adam, think of Sophia. Think of the dangers. Arabia is not the Nile. This caravan of your dreams could be swallowed up by its sands. Better to return with glory and gold. Let the stars shine for shepherds and mystics. I have seen cities of glass and men who fly, and yet they are emptier than any desert. I tell you, Honourius, the riches of Alexandria and Rome are nothing compared to what waits beneath that star. I will not turn back. I turned, gesturing to those others who had taken the oath, and neither will they. Honourius sighed, shaking his head. Adam, and great kings Gondophares and Balthazar, and you, my esteemed queen of the Massagetæ, Melicor and your companions, hearken to what I say, for I tell you, I know what you face if you travel through Arabia, for I was there myself many years ago. Honourius took a deep breath, coughed lightly, closed his eyes, and spoke slowly as he recounted his tale. Half a lifetime ago, I was a young tribune. I was under the command of Prefect Aelius Gallus of Aegyptus, who was appointed by the princeps himself. Gallus was commanded to gather an army and lead an expedition from Alexandria to Arabia Felix in the south, to open up trade routes and to conquer the lands of the Sabaeans, who controlled the frankincense trail. Our aim was their capital of Marib, near the southern coast. I was not yet 20 when I set foot upon the red sands of Arabia. Aelius Gallus, tall and bronze like a statue of Mars, stood upon the deck of our Liberne as we departed. The wind tugged at his cloak, and his eyes never left the coast, where the land of fortune, Arabia Felix, glittered in the haze like a mirage. For we believed we were sailing towards wealth and glory, that the gods themselves had crowned Augustus with a destiny that would spill across the Red Sea and calm the incense-laden hills of Saba. We were 10,000 legionnaires and auxiliaries, Nabatean guides, archers from Crete, engineers from Alexandria, and I, a young tribune with ink still drying on my commission, was aflame with purpose. I had read of Alexander, of Scipio, of Caesar's far conquests. I thought myself heir to their legacy. I was wrong. Salalius, chief of the Nabateans, greeted us at their port, Loukia Come. He bowed low, pretending to be our friend, silver circlet around his neck gleaming, and smiling with a mouth that knew only lies. He was our guide and our doom. We marched inland along the paths he claimed were ancient and trusted. But the sands shifted beneath us. There were no wells, no shaded groves, no caravans passing us, and the stars themselves seemed uncertain in their course. The sun blistered our backs, and the ground burned our feet through our boots. Around our campfires, in the desert's darkest night, another guide, Rafi ibn Jal, told us dark tales of the jinn. Our fire crackled and spat in the still cold. The circle of light it cast was small, a mere candle against the vast and endless dark that stretched beyond. We were in a desert without a horizon, under a sky without a moon. Dunes whispered to each other with dry, shifting voices. Beyond them, nothing, or worse. My soul was uneasy. I sat close to the flames. My bronze breastplate, dulled by dust, caught the firelight in reddish glints. The men were silent, breaths visible in the cooling air. Our cohort had been whittled down in body and spirit by the heat, thirst, and cruel terrain since departing from Loukia weeks earlier. Now we are in the deep of Arabia, deeper than any Roman should be. I watched Rafi closely. His face flickered between shadow and flame. He was a lean, middle-aged man whose eyes never blinked when the fire crackled. Beside him sat his nephew, Malik, barely older than me, but with a face that had already seen too much. Rafi broke the silence. "You do not sleep, son of Rome." "Sleep is a fragile thing in this cursed land," I said. Rafi nodded, picking the coals with a stick. "Not cursed," he whispered, "but guarded." "By what?" I asked. "The jinn," said Malik, his voice low. I had heard that word before. There were whispers in camp, muttered by prayers from the locals. It surfaced in stories amongst the Arab merchants in Alexandria and in the frightened mutterings of the camel drivers. But here, in the starless dark, it sounded heavier. "Spirits?" I asked. "Ghosts?" Rafi snorted. "Not ghosts. They live, they walk, they hunger." He glanced into the night and towards the dunes as if something unseen might be listening. "Once," he said slowly, "they lived in harmony with the winds, born of smokeless fire before the world was made. They danced in the high places, slept in caves laced with silver veins, bathed in warm breath of oases. But now they are dispossessed." "Could you tell me why?" I asked. "You Romans march with iron, cutting paths through sacred sands. You trample where your gods do not reign." Rafi's eyes flushed. "The jinn do not forget." I looked around at the other Arab guides huddled in the dark. None spoke. Even the wind seemed to have stilled. "You speak as though you believe this," I said. Rafi smiled thinly. "Believe? Boy, I was there." And then his voice dropped, almost reverent. "Near Narshan, I once wandered into a wadi during a snowstorm. I took shelter in a cleft of stone. When the wind died, I heard music. No pipe or drum, but the voices humming in a tongue older than any of ours. I saw fire, dancing like a woman wrapped in flame, eyes deep as obsidian. She asked my name. I dared not answer." "What happened?" I asked, fearful of the answer. "She vanished," Rafi said. but her voice stayed, sometimes in dreams, sometimes in the voice of the storm. I laughed nervously, trying to dispel the heaviness. You expect me to believe that. Raffi did not blink. I expect nothing of you, Roman. But I tell you this, youth that you are, when the dunes began to hum like bees, when the wind rises but does not touch your skin, when the fire will not burn, and your shadow points the wrong way, leave. Do not speak. Do not run. Walk backward, eyes on the sand. Malik finally spoke. They do not like iron or arrogance. I gazed past the fire into the darkness. No stars, no sound, only the thump of my heart and the distant hiss of sand shifting down the dunes. Suddenly, a camel brayed in panic with a sharp, piercing cry. The men jolted to their feet. One of our sentries came running into the firelight. Sir, something in the dark, moving fast as a horse, but no hoof prints. All eyes turned to Raffi. He whispered only one word. Gula. That night, I did not sleep. The fire was fed until dawn, and though nothing emerged from the dark, the silence around King was thick and watchful, as though the desert itself were holding its breath. And in the weeks that followed, as men began to vanish one by one, always at night, I remembered that morning, and I began, at last, to believe. Men whispered that we had been led not by a genius, but by a ghost. One of our soldiers woke screaming that he had seen jackals walking like men, eyes glowing in the darkness. He died the next night, delirious and blind. By the 20th day, our water skins were cracked. Men drank from stagnant pools and vomited black. The physicians called it flux. The centurions called it cowardice. I called it the beginning of death. One morning, I found my tent mate, Petronius, younger than I, who had once hummed songs of Rome while oiling his cuirass, lying with his lips pressed to the sand as if drinking from it. His tongue was swollen like a dying fish. He did not wake. We buried so many that we stopped digging graves. Instead, we wrapped their bodies in cloaks and laid them upon the stones where the wind would dry them and the sun would bleach their bones. We called that place Valles Umbrae, the Valley of Shadows. At last we came to Marib, proud and cruel, rising from the dust like a fortress of ivory. The walls were thick, its gates unshaken by our siege towers. We were too few, too broken. The Sabaeans sent scouts to taunt us with their full water skins and laughing girls. Gallus tried to rally us. He stood upon a rock and spoke of Roman honor and of the eagles in the Senate. But his voice cracked. His eyes were sunken. Even his horse shuddered beneath him. We did not break Marib. It broke us. Salelius vanished one night. Some said the Sabaeans had paid him. Others believed he was a shade returned to the underworld. We no longer cared. We took the coast road home. It was faster, yes, but lined with more bones than stones. What few ships remained waited for us at the shore, their sails like white tomb wrappings. I watched as the last of the wounded and sick were carried aboard. We had left Egyptus with 10,000. We returned with perhaps a third, and half of those were never the same again. And now I sit here before you, an old man with a limp and eyes that still see the dunes. I have seen the Alps and the forests of Gaul, and nothing so vast, so silent, so cruel as the Arabian desert. It is not a land that can be conquered or traversed by those who do not belong here. It is a land that remembers. And I remember it still, and I shudder at the thought of you taking my daughter there. Honourius turned to Sophia, his face softened by love, and then back to me, eyes glistening with tears, pleading with me. Think of her. Think of the dangers. Arabia is not the Nile. Your caravan of dreamers will be swallowed by its sands. Better to return with glory and gold. Leave the stars to shine for shepherds and mystics. I stepped forward, my voice carrying a strange gravity. I tell you, honored conscript father, that I've seen cities of glass and men who fly, and yet they are emptier than any desert. The riches of Alexandria are nothing compared to what waits beneath that star. I will not turn back. Nicanor spoke hesitantly. Adam, I have seen men die for less than what you speak of. But if you go east, we will need different charts, different guides, and different ships. Arabia is no gentle mistress. Sophia placed her hand on my arm. It seems we are divided. Those who hear the song of angels will follow it. Those who do not, well, they must follow their own truth. Theron paced, his sandals slapping the stone. Honourius rubbed his temples. Nicanor stared at the horizon. Theron ceased his pacing. He was silent for a long time. He looked into the distance at the harbor lamps and turned back to me. Then, so must it be. We will part as friends. But I beg you to remember, Alexandria and Rome honors those who bring gifts. The desert remembers only bones. He looked at Axia, tears streaming down his face. So those of us who cannot see the star will take the ships to Bernice. We will guard our fortune and live to tell of it. He looked at me, his face half hidden in shadow. The rest of you may chase your visions through sand and silence, but know this, dear friends. As you took an oath, so will I. We shall set aside your portion and hold it for you should you return from your quest. We stood in silence for many minutes. Honourius spoke. Sophia, daughter, would you leave me? Would you leave safety? Leave your home? Sophia was tender but resolute. Father, I cannot unhear the voices. I cannot close my mind to the star. My home is wherever it leads me. Honourius sagged in his chair. Nicanor uttered a prayer to Poseidon under his breath. I spoke, my voice soft but carrying the weight of finality. So it is. Here in Adulis, our road divides. Some of us will follow fortune. Some will follow the flame. Though we part as friends, we will now walk two paths. The next night fell upon Adulis like a velvet shroud, glittering with the silver dust of uncountable stars. In the harbor, the sea lapped at the wharves, carrying a mingled sense of tar, myrrh, and salt. Lanterns hung from masts, their lights reflected in broken ribbons on the water. The company descended from the palace in silence, each step echoing the weight of our choices. Our caravan of treasures waited at the wharf. Bales of silk, amphorae of precious oils, chests of gems. Beside it, the crews bustled around the ships. On one side, Nicanor's Roman fleet, ready to sail north for Berenike. On the other, smaller vessels, dohas, prepared to slip across the Red Sea toward the shadowed Arabian coast. Theron broke the silence. Well, here we are. 2 roads, 1 harbor, and a fortune in the middle of it. He slapped one of the treasure chests with a calloused hand. And I shall see this in the Emporium of Alexandria. And you, he gestured to me, Sophia and the rest of the League of Starbearers, may you find your angels in the sand. Camilla and Scarus shyly came over to Sophia and I. Camilla was subdued, her face downcast. She nuzzled Scarus towards us. His face was flushed, tears streaming down his rugged cheeks. He knelt before me, head bowed, seizing my hands plaintively. Dominus, sir, I have sworn an oath to be your protector through all the journey these many months. Seems to me that your journey ain't over just yet. I will follow ye if you'll have me. I looked to Camilla, her face in her hands. She was sobbing quietly. Scarus followed my gaze. Lady Camilla here feels her duty is to stay with Honourius and to others, and return with them to Alexandria. He be needing her help, you see. Besides, she made it plain to me that me duty lies to go with ye, and to be your protector from them jinn and those thieves Honourius tells us about. I looked at Sophia. She knew what was on my mind and nodded her head, the words between us passing unspoken. I grasped Scarus by his wrists and raised him to his feet. I spoke to him in my best command voice. Scarus, Primus, Pilus, and my friend, I most certainly would not have you join us. In fact, I forbid it. He looked at me, perplexed, his rugged hound dog of a face downcast. Dominus, sir, I dinna understand. I stepped forward, my hand on his shoulder, and brought him to Camilla. They looked at each other. I release you from any oath or obligation. I joined his hand to Camilla's. This is where your duty now lies, old friend. You must take care of this great lady, and she must take care of Honourius. When they both protested, I raised my hand to silence them. No, this is our wish, and you must do this for us, for my sake, and for Sophia. She is under my protection now, and we will brave our fates together, as you two must do. You will go to Alexandria, and make a life together. They rushed over to us, and we embraced for a long time. Sophia went to her father. May the gods of earth and sky guide you, Father. My road lies east, but my heart will remember. Honourius swallowed hard, the stern lines of his face softening. If we do not see you again, child, may your light outshine every shadow. And above us, in the deepening dusk, the stars shimmered on the horizon and came into view. I stood with Sophia, hand in hand, watching it, entranced. Loukia stood nearby, small among the tall travelers, her hands clutching a scroll to her chest. She watched the two groups separate, her eyes brimming with unspoken grief. Then she lifted her face to the sky, where that strange pulsing star now hovered just above the horizon, and began to sing. Her voice rose clear and trembling over the murmuring harbor. The sea divides, the winds depart. The two roads unroll beneath one star. One seeks the gold that feeds the heart. One walks to find the child afar. O night of parting, hush the wave. Carry your vows on wings of flame. If I return or find my grave, let heaven remember my name. Sailors paused in their work. Even the gulls grew quiet, as though the harbor itself listened. The song drifted over the waters like a benediction. Sophia and I stood hand in hand. Beside me, Axia Panopliades stood tall and still, her braided auburn hair glinting in the torchlight. Gondophares bowed his head, and even Targetus the Eagle-Master wiped his eyes as Zephyria shifted on his arm. The time had come. Theron clapped me on the shoulder, his voice gruff with the emotion he was struggling to hide. May your star bring you home someday, my friends. I put my arm on his shoulder. And may your gold not weigh down your soul, my friend. Thus we parted. Theron, Honourius, Camilla, Scarus, Nicanor, and the vast majority of the sailors, soldiers, and servants boarded the ships bound for Berenike, their square sails catching the night breeze. Across the wharf, we star-bearers, together with our Salian and Axia's bodyguard, stepped into smaller vessels, dohas, leaving all our treasure behind. As the ships drifted apart, the sea reflected two paths, one lit by the lanterns of merchants moving north towards wealth and memory, the other guided by the silent pulsing of the night star, crossing into mystery. The sea swallowed the sounds of our parting, leaving only the whisper of waves and the eternal gaze of the heavens. The night swallowed the harbor behind us. Aelius faded into a scattering of lights on the distant shore, and then nothing but a memory. Our smaller ships cut across the gentle swells, their single lantine sails glowing silver under the rising moon. The Red Sea stretched before us, dark and infinite, the air heavy with salt and secrets. I stood at the prow of our ship, my cloak whipping in the night breeze, eyes fixed eastward. Above us, the pulsing star hovered like a drop of molten gold, its light shimmering across the water in a trembling path that pointed the way. Sophia approached gently, her bare feet whispering on the deck. We see it more clearly at sea. I nodded, my voice low and reverent. Yes, it's as if nothing stands between us and heaven. The land and its shadows are gone. Only the star remains. We stood together in silence, the cold wind in our hair. Behind us, Loukia hummed softly to herself. Her melody carried off into the night. Axia sat cross-legged on the deck, back to back with her husband Arsalian. She gazed at the baby on her lap, while he sharpened his sword with slow, deliberate strokes. Targetus whispered to Sophia, the eagle hooded and calm in the moonlight. As the hours passed, the gentle rocking of the ship lulled the companions into quiet meditation. One by one, we drifted off into sleep, all except me. My eyes remained on the star until it filled my dreams. In my vision, I stood barefoot upon an endless sea, the water warm and still beneath my feet. The star expanded, filling the sky, beating like a living heart. From its life came angelic voices, a harmony woven of wind and water. Follow, follow, not to kingdoms, not to crowns, but to the cradle of the world. The voices swelled, surrounding me. I saw images ripple across the water. A humble doorway in a hill town under starlight. A young mother, her eyes luminous with joy and sorrow. A child wrapped in simple cloth, his face like the dawn itself. The voices softened to a single whisper, close as breath. It was Raphael's. Remember him, Adam. Witness and carry his light where the world forgets. I awoke with a start, the soft creak of the ship and the hush of the waves greeting me. The star still pulsed above, as if it too had been watching my dream. Far to the north, the merchant fleet made its own passage. The ships tacked hard upwind, headed for Berenike, guided by the firm hand of the Magister Navis Nicanor. Lanterns swung in the night wind, casting gold streaks on the restless sea. Below deck, the holds were stuffed with riches, bales of hay, pearls in sealed jars, heavy chests of spices and gold. Theron sat near the stern, a goblet of wine in his hand, staring into the dark. Scarus leaned upon the rail, arms crossed. "You'll not be sleeping either," he said. Theron grunted. "I sleep when the sea is calm, and when my mind is not troubled." Scarus, we raised an eyebrow. "So ye be thinking about them desert fools, or the gold?" Theron sighed. "Both. I've seen strange things these past years. Angels, stars that walk. Ha! I thought I'd chased madness across the steppes, but maybe I left a piece of my soul behind with them." Honourius stirred nearby, wrapped in his cloak, his voice gravelly. "You chose the road of reason, Theron. Do not second-guess it now. Gold is a more loyal companion than visions." Theron took a slow sip and stared at the horizon. "Perhaps, but I wonder which of us will be remembered when all of the gold is gone." The two fleets sailed on through the night, one towards fortune, one towards mystery. And above, the star burned quietly, watching both paths unfold. The first light of dawn spread blood across the eastern sky, painting the Red Sea in streaks of rose and amber. Mist clung low to the water, turning the horizon into a landscape of gold and shadow. I awoke to the gentle rocking of our ship, the chill of the morning on my face. Around me, my companions stirred. Axia stood first, stretching like a lioness. Targetus fed Zephyra bits of dried fish. Sophia was quietly rolling a blank vellum codex across her lap, quill in hand, as though feeling the weight of unwritten history and the need to begin telling the story. Over the water, the star still shimmered faintly in the brightening sky, like an amber amulet. Sophia spoke softly, almost to herself. It still lingers. Even as the sun rises, it waits for us. I nodded, my voice low and full of awe. Yes, the light of the world is rising, and yet it is the star that leads. Axia looked towards the dim Arabian shore, a pale line in the distance. Melchior tells me that beyond those dunes, the world changes. No roads, no paths, no walls, no emperors, only sky and sand. I know the steps, but even I fear such lands. Gondophares, wrapped in the simple white pilgrim's cloak, stood by the mast and spoke gravely. It will test us, as all pilgrimages do. The desert is a mirror. It shows a man what he carries inside, and it spares no one. Music for Chapter 11, Legends from ED Records, Save the World from ED Records, A New Quest from ED Records, Beyond the Walls from ED Records, Evolution by Ben Sound, Vatican Mystery by Trailer Wax, Army of Angels by Edgar Hopp, From Epidemic Sound, Progression by Christopher Mo Ditlevson, Forging an Empire by Christopher Mo Ditlevson, Risen from the Ashes, Godsend by Johannes Borloff, The Odyssey Ahead by Dream Cave, Vatican Mystery by Trailerworks, Army of Angels by Edgar Hopp. Archangel Chronicles 2, copyright 2025 by Raymond Collodi, all rights reserved.